Hi there. My name is Jill Kanterman, and my project is titled Applied Behavior Analysis in Special Education, Overcoming Barriers and Understanding the Benefits of Individualizing Professional Development for Teachers. I'm currently a paraprofessional working for a large public school district at a public separate building for individuals with significant needs. My experience relevant to my action research includes my position as an associate behavior analyst for the past 4 years at another public separate building within the same school district. I have also completed my postgraduate coursework and practicum to become a board certified behavior analyst and plan to sit for the BCBA exam later this year. The problems I have encountered in my experience fuel my desire to search for a solution with this action research. I have found that misconceptions and inaccurate understanding of ABA principles lead to pushback in many school settings. I have had personal experience with teachers and paraprofessionals being hesitant about ABA practices, which can be harmful for students who benefit from ABA. Hesitancy with ABA principles often breeds hesitancy about attending trainings and utilizing the principles in the classroom. So we need a way to get buy-in from teachers and paraprofessionals. Well, BCBAs are trained on how to implement preference assessments in students, so it makes sense that we can do one with staff on their wants and needs regarding ABA training. Using preference assessment like surveys before versus only after training can then allow us to create the training based on the results of those surveys. We can also see where staff stand on ABA principles, then create training that caters to individual needs. So giving educators a voice lends to buy-in and helps create and establish trust and respect, which is necessary to have with colleagues in education in order to have successful trainings. Here are the research questions for my study. My main question was, what are the factors that influence whether teachers and paraprofessionals in the special education setting are more likely to accept and attend a professional development on ABA principles? My sub-questions include, what are some barriers that behavior analysts face when creating effective professional development in the schools? And also, how can behavior analysts in the school make professional development opportunities that increase the likelihood that applied behavior principles are implemented in the classroom? So the purpose of my study is to address and combat misconceptions educators have about ABA, increase understanding and acceptance of ABA principles, increase the willingness to attend training, increase correct usage of ABA principles in the classroom, individualize trainings to increase relevancy, increase trust and collaboration by using educator input to create trainings, and really giving teachers a voice in professional development so they will be more likely to attend, enjoy, and accept the training and subject matter as it is related to applied behavior analysis. Also, another goal of mine was to create a preference assessment like survey for staff to be given before training and use results to customize that training. Also, finally, use the information I gain in my practice as a future BCBA. So what does the literature say? The history of a field without ethical imposed harm. There was no ethical code early in the field's infancy to prevent unnecessary harm, and unfortunately abuse was prevalent in the industry. Now there is a strict code of ethics to which all BCBAs must adhere, but bias persists against it. Many of the original clinical studies in the field involved simple behavior modification in animals, so many individuals still believe ABA is only for animals or only with individuals for autism. This is a narrow application, and the application is much more broad today. Misapplication of teaching strategies can lead to negative behavioral outcomes, which fuels the belief that ABA is the cause of problem behaviors, which is not true. So the use of technical jargon that not many people understand furthermore deepens the divide between staff and BCBAs. The increase in teacher knowledge of ABA principles connected to more positive attitude towards ABA and increases the likelihood of use in the classroom. Reed's notes on the acceptability of a training is related to the likelihood it will be successful. Fantuzzo and Atkins highlight the fact that modifications of practice by behavior analysts to increase relevancy has shown to help empower teachers to better accept the practice. And finally, Wolf talks about interviews and surveys that offer direct feedback, ways to connect, and provides info on how behavior analysts can adapt their practices to meet teacher needs. The primary participants in my action research include 23 special education classroom teachers and paraprofessionals who are employed by a large public school district in the St. Louis area. My participants all serve students from ages ranging from kindergarten through 8th grade who all have IEPs, or individualized education plans. Most, but not all, of the teachers and paraprofessionals in my study have gone through some training in applied behavior analysis and use ABA principles on a daily basis within their work. So I used a few data sources. The first is a survey. The survey was created using Google Forms and data collection was entirely digital in nature. It invited participants to select responses and give short answers to questions related to demographics, preferences with regard to methods of training, and on views related to applied behavior analysis. I also used an interview. After I analyzed the results of my survey, I interviewed my school's principal via email. The purpose of this interview was to further identify my limitations and opportunities when designing a training for my targeted staff population. My questions served to determine how the building principal views applied behavior analysis, what she identifies as the benefits and barriers to getting staff trained in ABA principles, and how she believes these barriers might be overcome. I was able to limit my influence on my participants' answers by making sure my survey was 100% anonymous. The anonymity of my participants in my survey gave me the freedom of avoiding any political correctness that might have resulted from my participants if they answered my questions in a face-to-face format. I wanted to gain the harsh truth from people who might not otherwise say it to my face. Respondent validation was conducted by reviewing the data of my test participants to ensure the data was not prone to user error, evokes the right and fair tone, and my data was accurate and was representative of the answers that were given, and also to ensure that I could deduce relationships between multiple types of questions. I conducted a negative case analysis of the data as I collected it for my final data analysis. I looked at my data from many different angles in order to lend to its credibility. Finally, I triangulated my data after I analyzed the results of my survey by conducting that interview with my school principal. So the results. A majority of participants believe that ABA principles are useful when implemented correctly. Nearly 1/3 of the participants were unsure about training topics and needed some additional information and did not feel comfortable self-assessing themselves on how comfortable they were on each of the topics. Participants prefer training to meet classroom-specific needs when they arise. Preference for more frequent and regular trainings was a large finding. Most participants want their trainer to be relatable. Almost half of participants thought it was important for the trainer to work in their school. And most were interested in attending an ABA training that was created based on their input. So the implications and recommendations. So what can we do about resistance to ABA principles? The hesitation about effectiveness of ABA principles is going to be inevitable in some people. It just is. So we're going to have to find a way to work around that. Also, behavior analysts should modify their tools for students to use with staff. Most notably, a preference assessment with students should be modified to use with staff as well. An ideal trainer is someone who is familiar with the settings and staff circumstances. And finally, relationships are very key to success. Also, getting staff input can strengthen relationships and identify needs. And my recommendation is that BCBA should conduct both a preference assessment survey before training and a feedback survey after training to account for staff wants and needs in multiple ways. And here are my references. Thank you for your time.